What's going on, everyone? Welcome. I got MagnenoAlex here today. Yep, he is well known in the Star Wars expanded universe side of things.
Somewhat.
Yeah, he joined YouTube in 2013. He started creating content. He does
Bad
lore
content, yeah.
videos. No, come on, it's good. Lore
Started with
videos.
Roblox videos.
Yeah, book reviews, comic reviews. He even does
Yeah.
some gameplay videos, which are pretty funny. I just wanted to
Oh,
throw that in there. I checked some of them
God.
out.
I haven't
He's
made game
current,
videos in a long time.
yeah, he is currently doing a reread of the expanded universe and doing some pretty interesting reviews and discussions about them. But anyway, how's it going today, buddy?
It's going all right. It is a early Thursday morning.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's kind of bad weather where I'm from. Snow is taking over, so everything's kind of closed down, schools and everything. But
Yeah.
I really enjoy doing these, and I appreciate everyone's kind words. It means a lot to me. I've been getting a lot of
Oh.
positive feedback from this, and especially from you, Alex. So I just wanted to
Hmm.
say that it's so fun doing these and hearing everybody's side of things and their story. But it's the time thing that's always a bummer. Everybody's got
Yeah.
lives, everybody's got jobs, some got kids, some go to school, some and we're all over. You know,
Yeah.
so but yeah, so we were talking a little bit before we started here, and
Mm.
I'm like, I'll be ready soon. I'm gonna make some coffee. You hit me back with, I'm doing the same thing. So I'm just curious,
Yeah.
what kind of coffee are you drinking?
Um. Well, I have a Keurig. So I was using pods to make my coffee. I had a pod that was like a pumpkin spice blend, and I had creamer that was also pumpkin spice. So I
Mm,
thought, hey, perfect.
that sounds
So
delicious. My wife
yeah.
uses a Keurig, and I use the drip.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of a black coffee guy, but every once in a while I'll throw in some French vanilla creamer. But the pumpkin thing sounds delicious because I love pumpkin.
Yeah, I love pumpkin too. Like pumpkin pie, way better than apple pie.
Yeah, oh, yeah, for sure, 100 times over. So, so on the topic of Star Wars, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear Star Wars?
Yeah, it's funny. There's another channel to do a plug in real quick. Two Star Wars nerds. I met them through Matt because he was talking about them in a live stream once. But they did a live stream like a year and a half ago on the anniversary of episode 2, just like talking about what they love about it and stuff like that. And then they asked us all a question of like, what does Star Wars like mean to you? Uh, I don't know if it's profound, but I said it's a story of redemption. And I said that's what I think of when I think of Star Wars, because the whole 6 films is ultimately a story of redemption. So I guess that's my answer for you.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I want to say hi to them too because I follow them and check them out,
Yeah.
and they're on my list to get a hold of them to see if they want to come on because I think their story is pretty good. But that's a topic for another time. But they're awesome and their content's great. You know what I mean? Um, but that's true. The redemption, it's 100%. And as you get farther into the lore of things, that plays out through a lot of different characters through the
Like
expanded
tip
universe.
difference.
Yeah, great book there. So is that what kind of, so you just came across, that's the first thing that you comes to mind, but how did you get into Star Wars? Let me ask you that.
Well, I'll say that I'm a youngin, so I'm only 22. I turned 22 on the 9th of January.
Young Buck.
But so when episode 3 came out, I was only like, it was 2005, so I was 4. So I didn't really see any of them in theaters or anything. I think I just saw them all on DVD. When exactly I watched it, I don't remember, but it was a part of my childhood, and I remember 2CW more growing up because that was when I was a bit older. But Star Wars has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, uh, at least from being a kid. Because there are times when I'm a kid that I don't remember anything past a certain point. So
Yeah, we all have that. Is there anybody in your household besides you that's a fan?
Yeah, my dad is a fan. He's not
Okay.
really a fan of the expanded universe, but he likes Star Wars. He's got Star Wars shirts and stuff, and Star Wars hats, and he has memorabilia that is Star Wars. And he's a big fan of the 6 films, and he watches the new shows and stuff. So he's definitely a fan of the franchise.
That's cool. Yeah, that's always cool to have somebody in the house besides you that's a fan and you can share. And even a parent is even better because then you can show your kids that.
Yeah,
So TCW Clone Wars is you remember vaguely, are the most so far. How did
yeah.
you how did you further your knowledge that hey, there's more out there than just this cartoon show and some movies? Like how did you find out about the comics and the books?
Yeah.
And
Well, when I was growing up, there was the Force Unleashed video game, which my dad had bought for like the PlayStation 3. So I had played that and had a lot of fun with that. I didn't know it was connected to anything. I thought it was just, a video game, so I played it. And didn't think much of it after the fact. And then, of course, I played the Lego Star Wars games because those are the best. Um, and then the sequels had come out, which I am not the biggest fan of, but I had nothing to compare it to. So I watched episode 7, and I was like, "That's fun." I was still kind of iffy about what they did with Han, making him just go back to being a smuggler. But I was like, "It's my first Star Wars film in theaters," because, as I said, I was young when the prequels came out, even so. It was the first film I actually got to see in theaters, and I really enjoyed it. And then episode 8 came out a few years later, and that one I had more of an issue with, and that's the one where I kind of like didn't want to watch anymore. But I did like Kylo Ren, or I remember liking Kylo Ren, so I looked up more about him online, and I think it was a guy named Ryan Kennel on YouTube. He had a video comparing Kylo Ren to Jason Solo, Darth Kaitis. I was like, what's that all about? So I watched that. He talked about the expanded universe. And so I looked up the expanded universe um, on YouTube, and I found Matt Wilkins' playlist of his first reviews through it. So, and that's kind of, I went down a whole rabbit hole there, and I just kind of found out about the whole expanded universe through that.
yeah, Papa Smurf there. And I mean that as a compliment to Matt Wilkins. He comes up a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah,
That's for sure. He's been in this game a long time.
yeah.
Um,
He started off doing defending the EU in the early days, and then he started his series of going through the books, talking about them.
yep, yeah, he's got a lot of good content for sure. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? So episode 7 was the first time in theaters that you got to see Star Wars and experience that. Like, how do you remember? Did you go to the opening? Was there a
It
lot of
wasn't the
people?
opening. It was probably a couple weeks after the fact, but there was still a lot of people in there. I remember, and people were really excited. I remember that.
Yeah, yeah. See, I didn't. I was kind of out of the
Mm.
Star Wars fandom at the time. When them films came out, and I seen them later. Actually, the only one I seen of the newer Disney side of things was the Solo
Oh yeah,
movie. Yeah, which I enjoyed. It was fun. So you came across Ryan Kinnell, listened to him. That led you to Matt Wilkins, and then that opened up that whole like,
yeah. This whole can of worms. Like, what? There's this whole thing that
yeah.
existed for 30 years. I had no idea about it.
So did you just start Googling and searching, or did you start with any kind of certain book, like your first Star Wars book that you read, perhaps?
I I skimmed around every era. I finally decided to deep dive and start actually buying the books um, post episode 6. But the first one I read, I think, because back when well, I didn't actually read it. So back when I found out about it, there were 3 probably illegal uploaded to YouTube unabridged audiobooks of the the Darth Bane trilogy. So I just listened to those on YouTube, and then I bought Darth Plagueis, and I skimmed around every era, checking out a couple things, but I fully deep dived as of Truce of Bakora, which takes place a day after episode 6.
Yep, Return of the Jedi, which was a great read.
Yeah.
I highly recommend that book. Yeah. So you're not really you wouldn't say you're not a fan of the prequels, but like you didn't really care about that time era, like going
Yeah,
back and
no,
trying to
I mean, I did.
find the books. Okay.
I really liked the prequels. I was disappointed with the sequels, and so I wanted to see what was this version of it. And so that's why I mainly wanted to focus on post Endor, because I wanted to see this timeline's version of events and see if it was any better.
Right.
So that's why
Okay.
I primarily focused on that.
Yeah. I understand. I get it. Yeah, I love the prequels too. I think they're fun. And I love all the lore that's behind that in the books. I'm currently about halfway through Darth Plagueis right now. I
Yeah,
read it I read it back in the day, but I don't remember it, you know.
yeah,
It's been that long, and I'm just like blown away with it so far. I just sometimes can't put it down.
yeah. It's definitely a top five, I think, in the EU. Top five
Right.
best.
So after you found out about all this, you started going crazy, bananas. I need this, I want to read this. Is that what made you decide to start a channel? Is it just because you just want you've seen Matt, you've seen others, and you just wanted to get your side of things out there too?
Um, it was that, and like when I had started doing the readings, it was like right before COVID and lockdowns and all that stuff happened. So I had my first job after high school. I was working at a factory, making like nuts and bolts and stuff for whatever.
Yep.
Um, but COVID was like just starting. We didn't know a lot about it. But they had to start letting some people go at work because of everything. And like I still live with my parents and stuff, so it was like I'm not like feeding kids and whatever. So it
Right.
was like they'd probably let me go, and I was like, that's fair.
Yep.
So I was at home for a long time with no job or anything and nothing to do. So I just started reading, and I was like, well, if I'm gonna read all this stuff, why don't I just like express my thoughts somewhere? So I did that to keep myself sane, I guess, as I was stuck at home all the time. So that's why I started making videos.
Yeah, it seemed kind of like a lot of people when COVID hit needed something to do. And how do I say this? But the way that you described, you're like, well, I don't have a family to feed regarding your job, and being like, oh, like that's uh, pretty respectful, and that's
Yeah,
awesome that you feel that way at such a young age, you know.
yeah,
So that's cool. So that's perfect. Why not read? You got the time. Let's start
yeah,
a channel. Let's get out there. Start. Yeah, and I gotta say, if getting into some of your book reviews I've listened to lately, yeah, man, you bring a lot of positive energy and fun vibes to your, however you want to slice it and dice it, baby.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
or I can't do it as good as you, but
yeah. Yeah, I've definitely built up that because I started off not timid because there's a whole other can of worms to dive into, a whole other rabbit hole. But
sure.
besides my channel, there's another channel, a couple channels actually that I've been doing stuff since I was like in middle school, where we'd make like videos together. One of them being Fin Shamrock, the other one being Magneno Inc., which is where I get the name Magneno from. It's Magneno GC now, but I made videos with them, so I had a bit more confidence on talking to a camera. But still with like book reviews and never done it before, so I didn't know exactly how I was supposed to do that. So I was just kind of going however until I kind of just like found my groove, and now I'm kind of like I'm just pretty confident in just talking to a camera.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I try to be positive. The meanest I ever was when I reviewed the Bounty Hunter Wars trilogy. I was pretty mean to it, but I tried to find positives. But
Well, yeah. Well, that's good. And yeah, I feel you on being a little timid and nervous in front of a camera. I thought the same thing. I've started this channel, I don't 6 months, 8 months ago, you know what I mean? And I still get a little nervous and excited because for one, I'm just excited to talk about Star Wars with someone,
yeah,
and that is as passionate and wants to talk about it as much as I do. So, but yeah, it builds up over time. You get better at it. And I mean, yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there because that's catchy and cool. And
yeah,
you got that energy about you, and you can see it when you talk about stuff, and the passion,
yeah.
you know,
Well,
and
depending if I'm really excited about it. Sometimes it depends on the subject.
right.
But
There's
yeah,
terrible. I don't like the Children of the Jedi. I think it is terrible.
Yeah,
So everybody's going to have their own opinions on everything.
yeah.
Somebody might like that book, whatever. But yeah, you're fun about it, and I enjoy it, and that's cool. And I wanted to let you know about that.
No, well, thank you.
So I was listening to the Heir to the Empire book review you did, and I liked how you used references from the 80s and 90s, like a backstory of how the time was back then and everything.
Yeah.
That was really cool. But how you said that's your 7, 8, and 9.
Mhm.
If that was up to be the, can you elaborate a little bit on that? Like what else? What's your thought behind that?
Well, for one, when they were releasing that trilogy, they the whole marketing campaign was like the continued story of Star Wars. Like they marketed it as the sequels, basically, in the 90s. But just everything about it. I've been pretty critical of Timothy Zahn when it comes to pretty much everything else he's done. But when it comes to that trilogy, Lightning in a Bottle, I think
Mhm.
it perfectly feels like the movies. Every character feels in line with who they are. It feels like a
Yeah.
natural progression of where we last saw them in Return of the Jedi. Like if you just started here, like you'd be fine because there's obviously a bunch of stories now that are before the Thrawn trilogy. But you could start with Heir to the Empire right after Return of the Jedi and be completely understanding of everything that's going on. And Timothy Zahn just nailed that trilogy. It's not perfect. It's by no means the best that the EU has to offer, but it's pretty solid. And it's just it feels like my sequel.
Yeah, when I read it the first time, I felt the same way. I'm like, man, this feels like you can picture the characters. You can
Mhm.
you get that perfect visual throughout really the whole trilogy. Wouldn't
Yeah,
you say? I mean, that's you could see there's Luke, there's Mark Hamill. You could just see
yeah,
it and feel it.
absolutely.
I agree. I think that, and I also think that possibly the Jedi Academy trilogy it feels there's a lot of mixed reviews about that book for
Yeah,
sure.
yes, there is.
Uh
To me, it feels like Star Wars, though. I
yeah,
agree with you.
to me that could be also the 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
it has that feel to it.
it'd be my 13, 14, 15.
You can
But
go that route too, yeah.
yeah.
I yeah, that's do you own multiple copies of the Heir to the Empire trilogy? I'm just curious.
I I own a few of them physically because Brennan, I think last Christmas had decided to. I guess he had a bunch of copies because Brennan's just insane and has everything in the world because he's one of the most in-depth, most passionate EU fans out there. And so
Yes.
he's just like, hey, my family knows that you're a good friend to me, and I think you're a good friend. So I'm. What's your address? I'm like, what? And he's like, I'm gonna send you a bunch of books. So he just sent me a bunch of books,
That
which I own them all on my phone on Kindle. But he
okay.
just sent a whole bunch of books that I had to go pick up.
Hey,
So that's why I
that's
have
cool.
copies now of them on my phone and physically.
That's awesome. Yeah, Brennan, Quinlan Voss, shout out to you, buddy. Yeah, I had him on the channel. He's great. Great. A lot of knowledge there too. Fun, exciting.
Yeah, if you
But
think I know stuff, Brennan Brennan will take me to school.
you're both good. That's I mean, like I've said before, like you younger guys aren't you're gonna be the ones kind of running the show here. You're bringing it up.
Yeah,
So
once Papa Smurfs retires.
yeah, yeah, right. Um, so oh man, yeah, that's really cool. Brennan did that. I have a few different copies of I got the Essential Legends, I got the hardbacks, I got the
Hmm.
softbacks, and I was looking at my shelf and I'm like, man, you eventually start to run out of room or don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
So I started taking copies of like I'll keep the hardback, I'll get rid of this, and I got a little stack myself and I didn't know what to do with them. I was like, well, I guess I can bring them to Goodwill or but that would be cool to, if there was a club where you can just send books and they can ship them out
Oh yeah.
wherever, you know. So do you like to, now that you said you have them on your Kindle, do you prefer to read it that way or do you like to hold the book?
I prefer holding a book. I prefer having a physical copy. I just the reason I usually buy them on Kindle is because Kindle's cheaper than buying them physically. So,
True.
but I plan once I move out of my house and have my own place to get a nice big shelf and have all the physical copies somewhere. But yeah, it's just more of a matter of convenience than preference.
Right. Yeah, I had that conversation too. I was give a shout out to Only Good Games. Been talking with him.
Yeah, good
He
guy.
yeah, absolutely. And we had that little conversation of physical copies, the hardbacks collecting. But yeah, I always curious because everybody's got a little different opinion. How they like to read, what they like to collect, and stuff.
Yeah,
Keeping on the same trilogy, going into Dark Force Rising, I had to laugh because you were talking about Lord of the Rings, and in trilogies, we'll do the broad spectrum here. In trilogies, the second film is normally not nobody's favorite, in
yeah,
a sense. The Empire Strikes Back is an exception to that, for
yeah.
sure. But so you brought up Lord of the Rings, and it's like the Two Towers, and I'm thinking, man, I like the Two Towers, Alex. That's one of
Yeah,
my
that's the same
favorite.
thing that two Star Wars nerds said on the comments section.
Yeah. Oh man, well that's funny. That's good. Yeah,
I mean, I like Two Towers. I just think it's the weakest of the trilogy, is all.
yeah. Well, I see what you're saying with the Fellowship of the Ring and the Return of the King. I mean, the epic films, but like every time I get ready when they go to battle, when they're holding down the fort,
Right, yeah.
I get all jacked and excited and
Yeah,
pumped, and
that's fair.
yeah. So I
It's a
just
good
want,
scene.
yes, it is. So I wanted to bring that up. On
Yeah.
that on that Lord of the Rings side of things, is there any other fandoms that you're into? Like the MCU, that you really connect with?
The MCU I used to. I think,
Yeah.
not to be a downer, I think after Endgame, my excitement has kind of dwindled.
Okay,
I
well,
don't really care as much about the stuff that's been coming out. I mean, I watched Doctor Strange too. I thought it was fine. Um, I saw Spider-Man because doesn't matter what, if it's Spider-Man, I'm gonna watch it because Spider-Man's my favorite superhero. So I will watch anything that comes out with that.
okay,
Um, but as for the MCU timeline as a whole, uh, yeah, I'm I'm okay now. I think I'm content with how Endgame ended.
okay. Don't
But I
spoil
do
it
like
for
the
me.
MCU.
I don't know what happened. I don't mean to cut you off, but like I'm
Oh,
currently, I stopped watching that stuff where like Iron Man 2 came out, so I
oh,
haven't seen none of it. So
no,
now
fair enough.
my boys are like, Dad, you gotta check this out. And I'm like, all right. So I've been watching it, and I just finished Captain Marvel because I'm watching them in chronological movie order.
Okay, yeah,
So
and that's in the '90s. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
so okay, yeah. So
yeah,
you would say you connect the most, like Star Wars is like your
yeah. As
that's
Star
yeah.
Wars, I also, even though my parents are like, "Oh, it's for nerds," I watched Star Trek like a year or two ago, and I was like, "What are you talking about? This is good stuff." Like I saw Space Seed with Khan in the original series for the first time, and I was like, this is compelling storytelling. What are people talking about this being for nerds? This is great. If this is what nerds watch, then I guess I want to be a nerd. This is good. So I watched that. I watched The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, which is the best Star Trek show. It's my favorite. Also, it's the best Captain Sisko.
Okay.
Um, so I like Star Trek as well. And then something I'm trying to get more into recently. Um, I saw the Dune trailer that came out a year ago,
Okay.
and I was like, "What's that?" And so I bought the book. I read the whole book. I liked it. So now I'm trying to get into the entire Dune universe because I know that Kevin J. Anderson wrote like half of it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you'd say he's probably one of your favorite authors. I would
yeah,
just
I think so. I,
okay.
I, I enjoy Kevin a lot,
Yeah.
and also I learned that there was a bunch of Halo books, and I was a big fan of Halo growing up.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get into that as well.
Yeah, I never got in as in sci-fi, like I never really got into like I'm nothing against it, Star Trek, Dune, like that was never
Mhm.
my thing. I Star Wars is what I would say is the only sci-fi media that I connect with.
Are you more of a
But
fantasy guy?
what's that? I didn't catch that.
Oh, are you more of a fantasy guy?
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. I like the fantasy thing. So,
I think that's why you like Star Wars, because it's
yep, I was gonna say it's got that fantasy vibe to it, and and
yeah,
then with the mixes, it's just it's awesome. That's why we're
yeah,
here talking, man. I mean,
mhm,
you know. So,
yeah,
well, that's cool that you got. Have you read any of the Star Trek books? Because I know there's a whole buttload of them
yeah.
out
I
there.
plan on it.
Okay.
But unlike the Star Wars expanded universe, it's not. It was never canon, so I'm kind of just gonna pick and choose where what I read and stuff. But
Yeah.
I like fantasy too. I've always preferred sci-fi though. I don't know, but I love Lord of the Rings, and
Yep.
Harry Potter's fun. I plan on reading Wheel of Time at some point, which I know is a fantasy book series. So,
Yep. Yeah.
and then I
I
read the
recently read them.
Silmarillion last year, like 4 months ago, because I got COVID finally after 2 years of avoiding it, and so I just read the Silmarillion, and it was crazy. It's the Bible of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've never read it, but that's what I heard for sure.
Yeah.
Have you checked out the Amazon Lord of the Rings show at all?
No,
No?
I
Okay.
have
All right.
I have no interest in that.
No? Okay.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I watched it, I just went into it with an open mind because I
Did you
have
enjoy it?
yeah, I thought it was really fun for sure. I thought it was fun.
Completely
As
fair.
as far as like the lore and what people think and how things play out, I haven't read it, so I can't justify that. But most of the time, the books or the movie are way better than the movies, most of the time,
Yeah.
in any kind of situation. So I just went into it with an open mind and I thought it was fun, you know.
That's
Same
that's
as
fair.
the Wheel of Time. I haven't read that, but I like the show.
Yeah. Yeah. My philosophy when it comes to that stuff, like usually if I think I'm not gonna like something, I just won't watch it. And maybe I would like it if I give it a chance, but it's the sort of thing where I kind of just like with the expanded universe, like I read that and I don't watch the new stuff. Nothing against the new stuff because I don't watch it, so I have no right to critique it. But I just have no interest in watching the new Star Wars shows and stuff. So I just kind of like I'm not negative about it, but I don't talk about it because I don't watch it. So that's just kind of it's the same thing that Matt Wilkins does. Like people talk about something in a live stream that happened in a TV show, and he's like, "What are you talking about? That's from a TV show." I have no idea because I'm ignorant of all things because I purposely avoid it. So
Yeah, which is fair and which is good. And yeah, I mean, I watch the shows on Disney just because it's something to watch.
yeah,
I'm starting to me, like the story should have went in the EU
yeah,
direction from uh, and you mentioned canon earlier
hmm
and the timeline. We'll talk about for a second because like you joined YouTube back in 2013 and I think 2014 like was the cutoff. Did
hmm
that like did that how did at that time how did that affect you as you were or it didn't really, you know what I'm saying?
Um,
Like
what do you?
learning that the canon like Disney bought it. Now all the books that are out just they don't mean nothing.
Oh,
Did that matter to you at all at the time or no?
well, before I knew about the EU, it didn't really matter to me because I didn't
Okay.
know it existed. Then I found out about the EU and I started reading it and stuff and really enjoying it. And then through watching Matt Wilkins and other EU YouTubers, I learned like, oh, so this was around for like 30 years, and then they just cut it off. And I was like, that is really disappointing. I wasn't angry like I think Matt and other people were because they were currently fans. And then 2014 came and it was dropped.
Yeah.
So I feel like had more anger toward it. I was never really angry about it because I was never a part of it. But after the fact, I was sad about it. Um,
Yeah.
though most EU fans they're not like, oh, we want the EU to be canon, which seems to be an argument by some. It's more of just, well, like Marvel comics and DC comics, they got multiple storylines and multiple different timelines and dimensions, and
Yeah.
people are able to understand and enjoy that. So Star Wars has two timelines. Why can't there just be two running concurrently? And and I think that's why more people get upset, just because there's continually new stuff to watch for canon, but there's nothing new for the EU.
The EU, yeah.
And it would only give them more money. So that's one of the reasons EU fans get so upset.
Oh, for sure. I would like that, as I'm a fan of both, we'll say, like concurring timelines would be fine.
Yeah.
I watch the stuff with an open mind, like I said before. Yeah, it didn't really affect myself either as I started learning that this really ran deeper than I ever knew. So I wasn't a part of that, but I can see, like you said, they were mad and hurt, and because they were hardcore fans from the get go. Like there's fans out there following it from the start, the comics, and so I feel that now, and that to me to think about that, it was just like I don't know what kind of business decision that was with all this great material already there that they could just melt away in their hands,
Yeah. Well.
But,
Disney said they wanted creative freedom, and they felt like if they were being controlled this previous timeline, so they wanted a clean slate, which is fair. I won't get too much into critiquing Star Wars, but they've obviously taken certain ideas and characters from the EU. So,
well, for sure.
To me, it's like then why did you do it? Because you said you wanted to be creatively free, but you're taking stuff that already existed. It's not creative; it's reusing. So,
Yeah.
But that's their right. They own the product. They can
Yep.
do whatever they want with it. It's just strange to me.
Yep. No, I'm with you, and I got not being negative towards them.
No, yeah,
everything's cool.
Yeah. I know a lot of people
just,
like for example, Thrawn in Rebels. Like a lot of people like him, and that's cool. So I'm glad that more people know about him now because of Rebels.
Yeah, he's a big character. It's crazy. He's actually a pretty big character. Yeah, you're right. I haven't watched Rebels in a long time, so it's kind of fuzzy to me. But so, is there any? I know there's some books out there that like Joe Bongiorno is doing the supernatural encounter thing that's happening. Prior to that was Heart of the Jedi. Recently, there was a book, Lightsider, or a novella.
It's a short story.
Short story.
By Tom Veitch.
Yep.
That was meant to take place in between Dark Empire 1 and 2, the comic series.
And I'm not familiar with that or the comic series, and it's cool. I got to say that too, buddy. Like you're hip and quick with this stuff too, man. I'm telling you, the comic stuff, and it's like, oh, I wish I had my hands on all that, material. But you're actually going to be voicing a character. Is this correct?
Oh, right. Yeah, there's a fan-made audio drama being made of it. I'm like on a Discord with all that, and we had to do auditions and stuff for it. And so I'm not a huge role in it, but I do have a character in there that I'm voicing. I mean, I auditioned for the huge role, but I'm a little bit young for the part. So I will say, I don't think I'll get in trouble for saying so. Marcel, who you've also interviewed on here, he's going to be the voice of Cam Solusar, who is the main character of that short story. Because in Dark Empire 2, Luke just kind of shows up with this first ever student who just kind of pops up out of nowhere. And you're like, what's this guy doing here? Well, there was supposed to be this short story that took place in between the two comic series that never came out due to complications between Tom Veitch and Lucasfilm at the time. And so it was always jarring because he's just kind of there. So that short story kind of explains why he's there. But it's a decent little story, and I'm excited to be a voice in it.
Yeah, that's awesome, and congratulations on getting a part, by the way, because that's cool. And shout out to Marcel. Yeah, he's got a good voice for the readings he does and how he presents himself. It's very good, and so do you. But I can see what you were saying, like they probably wanted a more older sounding, no, not saying you're old, Marcel, voice to do a role. But yeah, you got a good voice too, and you present yourself really well. For sure. So what is there any projects you're working on? Is there anything in the future?
Not really, other than the EU and reviewing other books. Like I said, I used to be doing this series with my friends on different channels, but now that we're all adults, it's a bit harder to together. But we make stuff here and there. So if you wanted to see me do stuff outside of reviews, those would be the places for it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, you kind of have a lot of different podcasts that you help out on or work on, or randomly pick a EU topic, and you have some pretty good conversations on there, eh?
Yeah. Well, that was the reason we started because Matt kept saying he wanted more contributors to the website. And I didn't know what I could bring, but I talked to Brennan for a bit and we decided to do something together. So, but that won't be out till like April on the website.
Oh, well, that's going to be really cool. Is there any little hints or any topics you could share with us that?
I will give, because I told you, so I will give this one for the audience to get their exclusive little sneak peek.
There it
One of
is.
the episode's topics was the Star Wars Holiday Special more of a Christmas special or more of a Thanksgiving special?
That's cool.
So those are some of the fun topics we have.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun to listen to for sure. How did this all come about that you guys were gonna do this and on the expandeduniverse.com? Like, how did that all shake down?
So Matt was doing a live stream, and I don't remember the full context, but he was talking about like the Expanded Universe website, how he wants more people to like contribute to it and make articles and stuff. And I'm not much of a writer, so I was like, I'm probably not gonna release anything on there. But I got talking to Brendan, and we were talking about, contributing something. It's like, what if we did something together? Because we get along pretty well talking, like in a podcast kind of format anyway, like when we do live streams together.
Yeah.
So I thought, what if we do something together, like a video series? And so we made the first episode. We shared it to Matt. He said he loved it, so we've continued to do. And so now it's like an official thing that's going to release weekly as of April.
That's cool. That'll be real fun and exciting for sure. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. We'll have a bunch of guests on, like you for sure, at some point. So
awesome.
It'll be a whole lot of fun.
Heck yeah. We'll have a blast like we're doing right now.
Yeah. Been fun.
Yeah. So when it comes to the EU, is there a moment that just sticks out in your mind, like just, or it brings you to that happy place, where you really connect with Star Wars?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. Okay. I think like Heir to the Empire, or not Heir to the Empire, but the Thrawn trilogy. Okay. When Jason and Jaina are born, I think that was a pretty great moment, because it was just nice to see Han and Leia actually be a happy couple, and to see them have kids together was a moment that really brought me there. Also, all of New Jedi Order, which I know you haven't read yet, right, but was such a momentous, gigantic thing that is honestly my favorite story in Star Wars, more than the movies or anything, is that series specifically. So I think there's a lot of moments. I mean, I'm sure you've heard stuff. If you hang around long enough in the EU circles, you kind of get spoiled on certain things. Yeah. Unfortunately. Yep. Like I already knew about the big stuff before it happened. Still hit me, but it probably would hit me more if I didn't know. So, yeah, New Jedi Order just peak Star Wars, peak content, and a lot of amazing moments, whether they be epic or sad. There's a lot of crazy moments. So.
Man, I can't wait to, like, I'm trying to take my time. When I first got back into it, I would listen and I'd say, oh, I want to hear his book review on that. So I want to read the book. And I was kind of all over the timeline, but now I'm chilling. I'm just reading it nice and easy. And I cannot wait to get there. I own all the books.
It's definitely good the way you're doing it, though, because if you're reading everything in the Bantam era, which is, from Truce of Bakora all the way up to Hand of Thrawn, right? You have all of these characters and stuff that you're reading about, they will all be referenced. Kip Durin, big character in New Jedi Order. So if you love Kip, you get more Kip in there.
Awesome.
Jason and Jaina kind of form more into their own people there instead of just the kids that get kidnapped every week. They kind of become their own characters, and it rewards you for hours of reading other stuff. So if you've read all the books beforehand, then you feel like, man, I invested my time and I am now rewarded for it in New Jedi Order. So,
man, I can't wait to get there. I'm ecstatic for that because it sounds like a great thing. That's a really really great moment that you mentioned too. That brings you to that happy place with Han and Leia. I know a lot of people probably don't know they had children, other than besides 7, 8, and 9. So that you're right. That is a great moment. That for sure. There's so many, it'd be hard to pick.
Yeah.
I even for myself, thinking of when I thought of the question, I'm like, man, I couldn't really pinpoint it myself yet. So, but that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a good moment. What are you currently reading? What are you currently reading right now? I mean, are you still? I was going to say, are you still on the?
Well, I think.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're okay. You're okay. I just finished Champions of the Force, so I'm going to reread I, Jedi, which is by Michael Stackpole, which the first half is basically just Jedi Academy trilogy through Cornhorn's lens, and then the second half is him rescuing his wife from something.
Excuse me. Cool. Yeah, that's I haven't read that, but I own it. It's obviously it's on the list. Stackpole, pretty good author.
Yeah.
So, all right, man, let's get into some fun stuff here. Some of the fun questions. All right. So,
Alrighty.
if you could be a character in Star Wars, bounty hunter, Jedi, droid, Ewok, what would you like to be?
There's things I would like to be and things I would actually be.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Because I think, there's a lot of fun things in Star Wars. If you want to stay safe, probably shouldn't be a Jedi or a smuggler or a bounty hunter. If you want to live a decent life, you probably want to be like a moisture farmer on Tatooine or something.
Yeah.
But as to aspiring to be something, I mean, I usually don't talk about it too much, except for when it's appropriate. But I'm a religious person, so I mean, I would like to try to be a Jedi, but there's a lot of rules and regulations with that, and a lot of responsibility there. So, it's a hard. I think this is mentioned elsewhere. I don't know if it was in another one of your interviews, but it's a hard life to try to live. But I would like to try to be a Jedi. Specifically though in Luke's order, because he's not stupid about how he goes about it. He's like, yeah, you can get married and love people so long as you don't let that control you. So I would want to be a one of Luke's students.
As I would too myself. I'd like to be a Jedi, and like I said, we did talk about it on a different episode, if you will, but it's hard to walk that line. And I knew you were a religious person. I just didn't feel the need to mention it. You know what I mean? I didn't want to. That's a touchy subject to some people, so I just. You know what I'm saying? But I feel.
That's why I just left it there.
Yep. No, I feel you. So all right, well that's a Jedi. What would your name be?
What would my name be?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a hard one. What would my name be?
It's a hard one, but fun one.
It is a fun one. Well, since my channel name is MagnenoAlex, I think I would keep that in there. But maybe that's my last name.
Yeah.
But what would my first name be?
Yeah, it's a fun toughie.
It is a toughie.
You could sit on that one. We could come back to this.
I'll
you could phone a friend.
Yeah, I'll talk to Brendan about it. We'll learn my name.
You can ask.
I'll say my last name is MagnenoAlex.
There you go.
I'm Mr. MagnenoAlex.
There you go.
As for my first name, we're figuring that out.
All right. What about your favorite character? Who's your favorite character?
Favorite character? Oh, oh
I'm
my
hitting you
goodness.
with some good ones. I'm on a
Well,
roll this morning. I had 8 cups of coffee, and I'm just kidding.
yeah. Well, if we're talking outside of Skywalker blood, then it's my boy Kip Durn. Love Kip Durn, one of my
Yep.
favorite Jedi outside of them. And then if we're talking in the Skywalker blood, then it must go to Jason Solo, who is my favorite character in all of Star Wars.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the first one. I've been kind of keeping a tally with favorite characters here, and I got 2 for Lando, 1 for Quinlan, and now I got Jason Solo to add to the list here.
Yeah.
But what about if you were a Jedi, you had everything, you had your first name figured out, your identification card, please, sir. What would your color saber be?
Well, I've heard you talk about this, and I'm pretty much of the same opinion as you. I would absolutely want green because Luke had green in episode 6, and it's the one he primarily holds for the remainder of the EU. It's the one that Yoda had, and it's the one that my boy Qui-Gon had. So I would most definitely want a green lightsaber.
For sure. 100%, man. High five you for that one. Is there anything, yeah. Is there anything that you want the audience to know, whoever's listening? Anything that you want to get out there? Some up and coming review, maybe? No spoiler.
Not necessarily review or anything, but to anybody who has come to your channel and is just a fan of Star Wars, maybe doesn't know that much about the EU, or somebody who is a deep EU fan watching this,
Yep.
Don't give up. I hope that someday, if we say it with our wallets, say it with our voices, that we can have 2 concurrent timelines that everyone can enjoy, and that we can continue to have stories in the expanded universe, because there's still a lot of stories left to tell, and it's a wonderful universe, and hopefully one day we can see it continued. If we're persistent and we keep trying, maybe eventually Lucasfilm will hear us.
Yeah, it's still a big push. Legends Con, that's the thing that's happening. Get that out
Right.
there. That's a big event that's happening in California. So like there's still a huge EU fan, and there's fans of both, and there's fans of one or the other, and it's at the end of the day, it's Star Wars, and it gives us something to take us away and enjoy and have fun with, and have these great conversations like I'm having here right now.
Absolutely.
But there you have it, folks. MagnenoAlex right here, hot on the mic. If you like what I'm doing here, hit the like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your grandma. My grandma watches. Hi, grandma. I'm going to put Alex's info down in the description. I want you to check him out. Like I said, he's very positive, energetic, fun. You can tell that he's a true Star Wars fan, and he likes to share and does it in a respectful, awesome way. And I commend him, and he's very knowledgeable, But there it is.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. We'll have to do this again. I've been having a lot of ideas kind of bouncing around of things to do in the future and with you guys. And yeah, it'll be great. We'll make it happen. But that's it, folks. Till next time. See you guys soon.
See ya.